Guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're over on our YouTube account, and this is the second video in the series, guys. This is going to be covering our Mauler faction. I'm going to go through my tier list. I'm going to go through the priorities to really build up these heroes, guys. Now, this is probably one of the most difficult factions to play. Most players, when it looks even at the faction tower, the Mauler tower is usually significantly behind other factions, just because of the lineup that you see within the hero dynamic, which we're going to talk about as well. So let's go ahead and we'll get into the tier list first. All right, guys, so here is the tier list. You can see we're going to start from the top to the bottom, really talk about a couple heroes, where we see them kind of fitting into different formations, and also kind of how to build them we will cover in the next section. So looking here, guys, we have the awakened version of Brutus. Since he has been released, guys, has been super important within formations. He is probably the top tier awakened hero that we have seen so far within AFK Arena. He has utility in multiple game modes. We see him in a lot of formations. We see him in the Curse Realm. We see him in PvP. We see him in campaign. We see him in the tower. We also see him within the Temporal Rift. He's being run in a lot of different places. Since his release, guys, it has been kind of really big, really game-changing when it comes to where he is being utilized, which brings us to Anissa. Now, Anissa kind of goes hand in hand with the awakened version of Brutus. Again, we have seen her in a ton of different formations. When you're building her out, the higher she is building, she actually has a pretty strong damage mitigation factor within formations, does a considerable amount of damage within those formations as well. Mauler Tower, we're seeing her. Curse Realm, we're seeing her. Also seeing her within Temporal Rift, a couple different formations that she has really fallen into. Then, of course, Kren, guys. Kren is really the primary damage dealer when it comes to the Mauler faction. Absolutely one of the biggest ones that provides not only an incredible amount of damage within formations, but he also does a ton of crowd control, which I absolutely love. We do see him, again, in a lot of formations, which is interesting to see is when you look at the priority or when you look at the heroes in there, most of them are run alone. What I mean is like Kren within a formation, within a campaign formation, will not usually run with any other Maulers. It will literally just be Kren within the formation that we see. Now, buff and support, guys, Warwick is still in there. We see Warwick as his bone breaking ability. Still see him in a ton of formations for the buff that he provides within those formations, or essentially the debuff that he provides within those formations, making him a solid hero to build. Does not really need to be maxed out very well, but building him, at least having him up to that awakened, as you do continue progression for survivability purposes, will make a big difference. Now, formations. These are heroes that are very specific when it comes to formations, and honestly, probably Scrag we can move up here as well. 5-pull does not work without Scrass 3 of 9 furniture, which is the reason, again, he is a huge priority within AFK Arena, just for the 5-pull with Iran. If you do not have it, even if you looked at the new part within the Voyage, the Hunters part, the 5-pull is vital within there. It's very hard to take out the enemies without having that 5-pull in there, which of course, if you do not have that 3 of 9 on Scarath, is not going to work. Now, granted, we've seen him a lot in formations as of lately. The only thing that players use him for is to die. With the plus 30 signature item, he will do Petrify to the entire enemy team, meaning that you will have seconds of crowd control to the entire enemy team. So essentially, he is put frontline in formations just to die, which is kind of sad. But we see him in a lot of formations with Lucretia, allowing her, or essentially buying her time to be able to take down 1 or 2 targets while they are petrified, making him a big priority when it comes to formations. Then we have Brutus. Brutus is one of the heroes. When he takes fatal damage, he does go immune. The immunity will delay usually enough time for your heroes to get off their ultimate abilities, whether it's Ainz, whether it's Mihira. We have seen him in an incredible amount of comps. Even having him early game at Elite, Elite Plus, his immunity will work incredibly well for any heroes that are scaling. So we see him in a lot of formations with Daemon, where Daemon takes a little bit of time to scale. Even running sometimes with Isolde, where again, Isolde does take a little bit to scale. Brutus will buy those essential seconds when he goes immune to allow those heroes to get those ultimate abilities off. So he is still used in formation. Then, of course, Scrag, we moved up here into the formations. For the simple fact, guys, the Invade team is kind of built around Scrag. If you use it, we've actually seen a big resurgence of the Invade team since the Awakened version of Brutus and Anastasia. Screg with the 909 furniture will provide a big damage mitigation, also a energy boost and an attack boost for those invading comps. Now looking at the niche, this kind of level down here. So looking here, guys, Drez, of course, we used within the hunt, the Grand Hunt. He was actually pivotal. This season, we're not seeing him used at all. Short of the tower, he's used maybe in 1 or 2 formations every now and then, but he also does make a pretty strong appearance within the Abyssal Expedition. Now, Entender is another one, guys. Made it into, I think, 1 Cursed Realm team that she is still in. Within the tower itself, she does incredibly well soloing in the tower itself, which is similar to what we see with Thisu and what we see with Taili. They can fill a niche role or a niche role. But overall, if you don't have them built, and on most players' accounts, they do not have these Maulers built, there are good substitutions for them, or essentially heroes that will work. When you're running, 1 tower, Brutus will work incredibly well, or having Kren in there. When you start getting into 2 towers is where some of possibly like the Invade, the Entendre might come in there. If you have, again, the Awakened Brutus, he can kind of do it by himself. When you start getting into 3 towers, that is more of the area where Entendre really comes into play, because her and Screg, again, with the buffs that he provides, works pretty well within the tower. Again, we still see her in some Cursed Realm formations, and she seems to pop up in some best in slots randomly, but usually it is very, very short-lived within formations. Then, of course, guys, Taili and Thisu are kind of the same. Outside of the tower, I know she can be used, again, kind of in the niche formation. But ultimately, could you replace her with another hero? Absolutely, guys. These are 2 that are a pretty decent priority when it comes to building them out for this tower. But we do see them used occasionally, but not really in a prime slot that we would see them in the top 3 tiers. Now, looking at this role, guys, these are pretty much your tower heroes. These are the heroes that are going to be fillers. Even looking at heroes like Verk, most players utilize him for his traps. Unfortunately, Nimitsu, outside of the tower, possibly utilized in kind of a niche formation to provide haste. But again, a lot of players do not have him built or do not utilize him within the formation. It's very, very pigeonhole specific to if you can make him work. K-Sauce isn't really used anymore. Titus, Cetrana, Verk, and of course Sophia. None of these heroes outside of the tower I have used in a considerable amount of time. And then this bottom tier, guys, we have Inoki and we do have Alero. Again, are they heroes that you could build? Absolutely. Are they going to be super effective in the tower? Building them out, maxing them out might make them effective in the tower, but again, I kind of look at ultimately, can you fill their role with another hero? Yes, you absolutely can, guys. These are heroes that I would probably just more or less pass, or even not building them out. I believe both of my heroes right here, I have at a +20 signature item, and that's it. That's as far as I'll build them. They are fodder within the tower if I have to use them in a 3rd team, but there are a lot of other substitutes when it comes to building them out. So let's go ahead and we'll look at how to build these heroes out. All right, guys, so here we are back with the Maulers. We're going to start just from the top. We're going to go through these. Now, Entendre is a hero that is very similar in build to an Isolde. So she is very important, guys. With her being a warrior, with her being a damage hero, you want to build her out 30960. Her 60 engraving is actually what makes her shine, guys. This is where she will actually have the ability to survive. So this will be her heal, which again goes kind of hand in hand with survival. If you're utilizing her within formations, if you're utilizing her with the Mauler Tower, she can solo an incredible amount of teams if you have her built out, just because of that ability, guys. The +60 engraving on her is really big. When it comes to, of course, the furniture as well, makes a big difference. Right here, it gives her a big damage or a big attack rating boost, which I definitely like, and also is immune to enemy control skills to the end of battle. This will go hand in hand with keeping her healed up from that E60 that we have. I'm actually focused on building her out right now, guys. We already have her at a 46, continuing to build her out to that E60 to really push the Mauler Tower a little bit more than we are. Now, Kren, exact same, guys. 30960 is where you want to build him. Early, you can build him with the 30 or the 33, 36, 34. There's a couple different variations of the way that you want to build him, but as you progress further, as you push further into the campaign, and you're moving further into the tower, this will actually come in handy for really two things. Is one, survivability for Kren. This will deal with him taking burst damage. He gets a 50% reduction, which is huge within here. Again, dealing with the survivability issues that you might see. In addition, with the engraving, of course, you get an incredible amount of stats added onto these heroes, which is the reason, guys, if Kren is utilized for primary damage, which we see him in a couple Cursed Realm comps, he is the best in slot running with Oden, which again, most of the Maulers run by themselves. We might see Brutus in there, the Awakened Brutus, and we might see Kren, but usually that is the only heroes that we see within those formations. Now looking here, guys, we do have Sophia. Sophia used to be a hero that was utilized all the time, guys. She was the go-to in the 5-pull. As of now, short of the tower, she is really not utilized anywhere. Most players will get her to this plus 20 right here. That's really the only place that you really need her now. Again, a majority of players really do pass on building her. I got her to this 9 of 9 furniture right here in the inn, just because, again, this was a considerable amount of time ago. This is really not as prevalent as it used to be once upon a time. But again, short of the tower, she is not really being utilized. Now, Skarath, the plus 20 is all that you need on him. 3 of 9 furniture is the priority, guys. It is actually one of the biggest furnitures in the game. If you do not have this 3 of 9 furniture, the 5-pull does not work. Now, you will want to build him up a little bit higher as, again, you progress. The reason being, he is still within some Twisted Realm comps. We also do see him within some Cursed Realm comps. He does have utility in a couple different areas of AFK Arena. And if you're utilizing him within those 5 team comps, there's not really a reason not to build him up a little bit higher. He does a decent amount of damage within formations. And again, depending on the survivability or how you're kind of running him, you'll eventually want to build him up a little bit higher, but 203 will work well for him. Zetrana, short of the tower, I don't use her for anything. Even the accounts that I have her fully built out, plus 20 signature item. Again, just really running the cheaper version of these heroes when it comes to the tower. You could build her out. Is she going to do incredibly well? No, she'll do decent. She'll do well. But again, outside of the tower, we're not seeing her utilized, which brings us to Tylee. Again, accounts that I have her built, it's really niche on how well she does. Tower, she does well. A lot of players say you do have to have that 9 of 9 furniture, which of course in here will give her this immunity to being killed, but then essentially you have to throw some engraving on her. So honestly, looking in here, guys, the plus 30 signature item, pretty good. 9 of 9 furniture is where you'd want to build her to really maximize the damage within the tower. I wouldn't go as far to build her out. Again, I know some players have, and some players do use her a little bit later in the campaign. But looking through formations, even into chapter 44, I don't see not one single formation that I've seen her being utilized in. So either one, players are over leveled, or two, they just don't have her built to utilize. There's other heroes within formations that are working incredibly well. Now, Drez, he is another hero, guys, that you do want to build him up. The plus 20 signature item on him, absolutely. But the big thing with him, just like Tylee, is the 9 of 9 furniture. Now, this is huge, guys, for the attack speed increase. If you're using him again within the Cursed Realm, if you're using him within the Grand Hunt, this is what you needed to really maximize the damage that's on here. Then, of course, the engraving, he's pretty far down the list. I would not throw 30 or 60 engraving on him, but I am building out his furniture. As you can see, we have 1 of 9 right now, but short of the tower, not really being used. Now, Brutus, plus 20 signature item, again, just because it's relatively cheap. There's not really a big drive to push up his furniture levels. It does extend the duration of the last gasp ability, which means he will not die as fast. He is still used into chapter 44. We use him in early game, mid game, late game, even end game, guys, for the immunity factor that he has. Still, again, being utilized through an incredible amount of AFK Arena. Now, granted, again, plus 30 signature item is all you need. You don't even need him at Ascended. You don't even need him at 5 stars. You need him at Mythic with a plus 30 signature item. Similar to what we see with Khazard, that is really all you're going to build him. Utilized within some formations. I've actually seen him, and I have ran with him a lot with Lucretia. But again, this is all you need, guys. And I don't even put gear on him just for the simple fact you want him to die. He is a hero that is specifically going to die. If he doesn't die, this will not trigger. The petrification will not trigger if he doesn't die. So you can actually break him if you build him too high, similar to what we see with like a Thor and Cheese. But again, some formations with Mythic at plus 30, he is being utilized. Now Titus used to be strong crowd control when it came to the Mauler faction. Now with so many heroes joining, short of the tower, you're not going to see him utilized anywhere. Even running him, even Ranger Spec within the AE, I really didn't use him anywhere. He doesn't do a lot of damage. The crowd control was really the only thing that players used him for, because the Mauler faction not only one, lacks support, but two, they also lack a lot of crowd control, which is what we've been missing to the faction when Titus came out. Looking at Scrag, plus 20 signature item, absolutely guys, but he is a 9 of 9 furniture requirement right here. Allied heroes recover 100 energy every 3 seconds, also get an attack rating boost, and they take less damage, making his 9 of 9 a huge priority. So 209 guys, absolutely build up for Scrag. When it comes to the engraving, again, there's not a big reason to really build it out. There's a lot of other heroes that have a much higher priority than what we see with building out Scrag. Warwick, plus 20 signature item is really all that you need. Again, this is trying to deal with the survivability aspects that we see with Warwick. If you're finding within Cursed Realm, Twisted Realm, that he's dying out long before the timer is over, you have to build him out a little bit more. What we see with Mortis, what we see with Twins, what we see with Warwick, since they are just in there for buffers or debuffers, if they're dying out too soon, you have to build them up a little bit higher to address the issues with the survivability that we do see. Now looking at Vert guys, I have a plus or an unlocked signature item on him. Short of the tower, he is not utilized anywhere that I know of, and they only utilize him for the trap. So even if you don't have him built up, this is not going to make a really big difference. Nimitsu, unfortunately, the only real true healing support that we see. Since the Maulers do have the life leech ability, it doesn't work very well at all. But again, even building him out, I built him out. I did some did the furniture on him, did the engraving on him on the Mauler account. Overall, doesn't really seem to make a big difference, guys. When you start getting into level deficiencies, they will one-shot all of his totems, which makes him almost worthless, because without those totems, the healing and the damage aspect of Nimitsu is gone. Plus 20 signature item is really where I would build him. Same with Inoki, just because the plus 20 signature item is so incredibly cheap. Utilizing these heroes within the tower is the only place that we really see them. So plus 20 is exactly where you want him to be. Again, just because it's very slim with the tower utilization. Even having him built out, I don't find him to be very effective. Now Brutus, of course, the Awakened hero guys, build him out as much as possible. Again, personally, I feel like he is the best Awakened hero that is showing the most utility within formations. We see him in a ton of game modes within AFK Arena, kind of going hand in hand. Thane is good, but we don't see him in as many formations. He's not in as many places as we see Brutus, for the simple fact that Thane, one of his triggers is when he kills a target. If you look at boss fights, when you look at, again, Twisted Realm, Cursed Realm, things of that nature, most of those you do not kill the target. So it's kind of pigeonholed onto where he is going to work. But of course, guys, Brutus runs the Mauler Tower absolutely by himself, which brings us to Thisu, plus 20 signature item on there. Again, you can build him up a little bit higher. Is he going to be super ultra effective? No. If you build him out really high, he'll work well. But again, can you swap him? Can you replace him with a different hero? The answer usually within those formations are yes. I know a couple players that have him totally maxed out. Works incredibly well within the Mauler Tower. Outside of the Mauler Tower, not really utilized anywhere. Which brings us to Alero. Alero, the exact same thing, guys. I just use him for the tower. That is really it. It's pretty minimal if or where I even use this hero, just because, again, of the build, the design that he is in. And then, of course, we have Anissa, guys. Anissa has absolutely been a game changer. She is actually one that I'm going to add some stars on. We're going to do some engraving on. The big thing right here, guys, is this one. Each stack reduces the amount of damage Anissa receives by 20%, and she recovers 60% of the attack rating as health. So she has a heal over time, and she has a damage reduction, which is huge, guys. She is a hero, 30960. I would absolutely recommend. Again, we're seeing her in a lot of different formations. We're seeing her in a curse realm. She is super powerful when it comes to building out the heroes within here, guys. Then, of course, there's K-Sauce. He is at level 1 right here. I just unlocked the signature item. Not really any place that is used, guys. He is the Life Leech guy. So even here, guys, with Rabid Thirst, Life Leech is really broken within AFK Arena. It is super ineffective, which is the reason why most players do not use it. The big thing to note with Life Leech, guys, is if you are attacking a target that is immune, it gets 0. If you're attacking a target that has a shield, which is very prevalent within AFK Arena, the Life Leech does 0. That is the reason why a lot of players hate that, is this could be a very decent attribute if Life Leech worked regardless of the situation. So let's say you hit a target just like you normally do, you get a percentage back in Life Leech, great, it works as intended. If the target was shielded, if it still gave that portion back of Life Leech, if the target was immune, if it still gave that portion back in the Life Leech ability, it would actually make it worth it. But because it does not, you negate this entire effect, which kind of sucks. And again, the Life Leech goes with the warrior class that we've seen within the Elder Tree, which of course doesn't really do much when it comes to the healing aspect. So all right, guys, so that'll do it for the second faction video, guys. Next, we're going to be covering the Graveborn, and I'm actually going to systematically skip the Wilders for the simple fact I want to get the new Wilder in. I want to see what she is all about, see exactly where she's falling within tier list. So I think I'm going to pass over the Wilders right now. Again, just for the simple fact that we know there is a brand new hero that is coming on Tuesday, and I want to see exactly where she falls into formations. So all right, guys, so that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.